This case was reported by a woman who was on Lake Michigan with her husband and 2 other couples celebrating a friend's birthday. We were about 3 miles out on the lake around 10 p.m. We were having fun when I looked up and saw what looked like a giant bat. A bat as tall as my husband, 6'4", or even taller, was solid black with eyes that seemed to reflect moonlight. This bat was darker than the surrounding night sky and stood out perfectly against the moonlit sky. This bat circled the boat 3 times in complete silence. It quickly merged into the night sky and disappeared within seconds. Weather conditions mostly matched the witness's version of event. A waning moon, a cloudy sky, except that moonrise that night was around 11 p.m., so either the witness was confused about the time of the event or details regarding the moonlight's reflection were fabricated, or she mistook another light source for the moon. She added a bright blue object moving from north to south on the horizon was seen about 5 minutes after the creature took off. It wasn't a plane because it was bright green and moving slowly over the horizon. If I had to estimate, it was about 3 miles from our location. Once the object was out of sight, we sat there looking around in stunned silence. I began to feel extremely scared and told my husband that I thought it was safe to get out of the water as quickly as possible. I tried to take a picture of the thing as it circled, but all I got was black. In another report, the witness was hanging out with my boys and some friends in Chicago at the time of the sighting. As we talked about work and family, we heard a sound like a bird flapping its wings. One of my friends shouted that he saw a giant lechuza on the side of the road. We got there and saw what looked like a large owl. As we walked up, this owl stood on 2 legs and looked straight at us. We saw what looked like a giant lechuza, except it was 6 feet tall and huge. He was big, round eyes that scare everyone. We all screamed and this thing flew into the air. This freaked us all out and scared the children. Another report reads, I arrived at work at 2 a.m. at the Chicago International Produce Market, and as I walked across the parking lot, about 5 guys were staring up at the sky. I looked up and saw the biggest freaking owl I've ever seen. I'm 6 foot, and I'm guessing this thing was at least a foot taller than me. It was completely black except for having bright yellowish reddish eyes like a cat. It stood there for a minute or 2 staring at everyone before shooting up into the sky and disappearing. It made everyone feel very uneasy and only took off after some guys threw some rocks at it like an owl, only bigger, and you could hear it flap those wings when it took off. It made the sound as it took off and flew away that sounded like a truck's brakes when they are burned out. We stood around and looked for it for a few minutes, but it never came back. I'm reporting this because there is no way this was an owl. It stood upright like a man, just really, really tall. I don't want to discuss this with anyone and would prefer to remain anonymous. I don't imagine anyone would believe me anyways. One of the guys I work with who saw this thing said it made him feel very uneasy, like a scared kid, and he was glad someone threw a rock and made it fly away.